Are you a business owner or entrepreneur who's had great success in the business world, and now you want to launch a speaking career to share your message with the world? If that's you, then listen up. 25-year speaking industry veteran Brett Ridgway has released his latest special report, 3 key things entrepreneurs must master to build a profitable speaking business. To pick up your copy, go to brettridgway.com/freebie. Welcome to the Spotlight on Speaking show with Brett Ridgway, where you'll learn the keys to building a profitable speaking business from speaking industry pros. Each week, we interview a great guest who will share his or her speaking journey, identify what their keys to success have been, and highlight some critical mistakes they've made along the way that you'll want to avoid. Be sure to visit our website at spotlightonspeaking.com. And while you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, sit back, tune in, and get ready to meet this week's guest.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Spotlight on Speaking show with Brett Ridgway. I am your host, and I'm excited to have as my guest today a familiar face if you watched any of our podcasting episodes, but Judy Baker is my guest today. And today we want to focus on books because most speakers have books, but many speakers have books that just aren't doing what they want them to do in terms of helping them improve their speaker brand. Now, we've talked with Judy previously about her speaking journey, and I highly encourage you to go back and listen to episode number 18 of the Spotlight on Speaking show and learn about Judy's speaking journey. But again, today's journey is about books and how to take those books maybe that you've written that you've tried to use as a speaker, but they're just not getting the mileage out of them that you really should be doing. So, Judy, welcome once again to the Spotlight on Speaking show.
Oh, Brett, thank you so much for having me. I just love having conversations with you.
Well, I appreciate that so much. So, as we said, Judy, a lot of speakers have written books, and maybe they've got a book that's, could be a bigger asset in helping them build their brand than it has proven to be. And so today we want to kind of cover the ground on what can an author, a speaker do who has a book that isn't getting the mileage they want. How can they rejuvenate that book? How can they get more out of it to help them with their speaker brand? So I don't know where we want to start. We're just going to dive right in because this is kind of a different interview than we typically do on the Spotlight on Speaking show. So we're going to dive right into your sweet spot, so to speak. And where do you want to begin, Miss Judy?
Well, one of the things that I encourage authors to do if they're feeling like they're stuck in the desert, things aren't working, maybe they have gone on to other projects, but they still have this great book. I like to begin with an audit to see what have they done? What did they say? How did they say it? How did they present that book? Who did they connect with? And when we start with an audit, which is a dive into what's your brand look like? Do you have a brand? Because some authors don't think about themselves as having a personal brand. And you and I both know if you're a speaker, you want to create a brand so that people know who you are, what you can provide to an audience, and where you're going with that. So starting with the audit, so we look at, do you have a website? Is your book cover telling the right story? Are you on the right places for distribution? Sometimes authors think they just have to throw it up on one platform and that's it. But you know what? Not everybody's on that one platform. And I'm talking about Amazon. Amazon's great, and I don't discourage people from doing it. But today, you've got a lot of choices. So pay attention to who your audience is and see if your book's being offered in the right place. The other thing that's really critical, do you have a plan? Did you have a plan when you launched your book? And I think this is important also. It's an important distinction. Some authors think that the day they published is their launch date. Nah, you can continue to talk about your book, the content in your book, not saying buy my book, but the content in your book. You can keep using it and extending the life of that book by getting on podcasts, by giving talks, by creating some, one of the things I love is to say, oh, if you've got a business book, does it also have a companion workbook that goes with it? And if you do create that, what else did you do? So what I've already said is we're going to do an audit. We're going to create a plan. And for today, my last tip is, do you have an offer? Are you engaging and getting people into your email list? Now, if you're selling on other people's platforms, you may not know who bought your book, which is sad because you've got other things to offer them. You can put something in the back of your book or in the front of your book that tells people how to connect with you to get something else. Or one of my friends is doing something that is brilliant. When people see his website and they go to his page and there's about the book, you know what he does? He immediately is offering a free chapter. Why is he doing that? Is that a smart move? Two things are happening. One, the people who sign up for that got a gift, so they're feeling pretty awesome. And what else happened? He just got your email, so he can continue the conversation, because you and I and everybody listening should know platforms change. Now, your platform is all of your content, but what I'm talking about is social platforms. LinkedIn can change their algorithm. They can change what you can say and what you can't say. Facebook can do the same thing. So can Instagram. We already saw the massive implosion with Twitter, now X. So if you're relying only on these other channels, you could get stranded. And I talked about being in the desert. Well, you don't want to put all your eggs into somebody else's basket. So that's what I would start looking at, those three things. Do you have a strong brand? That's your personal brand. Your book is part of it. Do you have a plan? How often are you going to talk about that book? How often are you going to use that? And then what are you going to offer people that they want to get them on your email list? Because if you do that, you can not only sell them your book, but you can sell them your services. You can sell them other things that you're doing and the next books in your repertoire.
All right, so let's talk about Amazon a little bit. You touched on Amazon a little bit earlier or whatever, and obviously they're the 800-pound gorilla in the book selling world.
Yeah.
And do I feel that you should be selling your book on Amazon? Absolutely. I mean, that's where the majority of the traffic is going.
Right.
I always tell people that if you're selling your book only on Amazon, you mentioned this, then you're making a mistake, because there are a lot of other channels out there.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're selling only on Amazon, well, number one, it's Amazon's customer, not yours. You don't necessarily know who bought your book.
Correct.
I mean, if you're smart, you put some bounce backs in the book to drive them to your website, hopefully. But if you forgot to do that, we'll talk about that in a minute. So, but with Amazon, again, it's their customer, not yours. If they're handling the fulfillment for you, then you have no ability to put in a sell sheet or any information about other things that you've developed since your book came out. And you're not capturing the name and email address of the person whatsoever. So if you're a speaker and you're driving the traffic, if you're selling your book at speaking events and you're driving the traffic to Amazon, in my opinion, you're crazy. If you have any kind of platform whatsoever, you should be driving that traffic to your website so that you can capture their name, have the online bribe that Judy mentioned, whatever it may be, free chapter, etc., and then you can follow up with them accordingly. So yes, you should be selling on Amazon, but no, you should not only be selling on Amazon. Anything to add to that, Judy?
Well, what has changed very rapidly, people are using crowdfunding to create a marketing campaign before they publish a book. So they're getting pre-sales. They are usually selling a book that, let's say an average retail price of $20. If they're selling it as part of a crowdfunding, they're probably going to be able to sell that book. So they'll offer an ebook, they'll offer a print book, they may offer an audio option too, but it's at a higher price point, because in a crowdfunding situation, you can create bundles that are very difficult to create on a platform like Amazon.
Right.
It's like, a nightmare. And that crowdfunding campaign doesn't go away after you end the date of fulfillment. It's still there. People can still find it. They can still find out about you. So that's one. Another thing that's happening is, as you said, you want to drive traffic to your website. You can sell directly from your website. You can do it with a Shopify store, so that you're not having to, package up the book each time, but you have a portal where people are coming, they're buying the book, and you have fulfillment, different options on the back end. Another thing that's happened too, we've got options like, with audiobooks, you can sell them on Audible, you can sell them on Spotify, you can sell them on Barnes and Noble. We know that Amazon's the big gorilla. Ingram is still very prominent, even though there are some issues there. But with Ingram, that lets you get your book into catalogs where retailers can purchase your book. And if you're missing out on that, libraries, universities, bookstores, all kinds of places that would want to buy your book, they're not going to buy it from Amazon because Amazon is a competitor.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to think about that. And it doesn't take a lot for you to use other distributors. There are services like Draft to Digital, which is one of my favorites, where you can say, here's my book. They'll help you with the whole publishing process, help you format it. And you can then say, I want my book available on the following retailers. And so you don't have to upload everything yourself a gajillion times. And we all know how much fun that is. And they only take a small amount when a book sells. So that, you got to start thinking about, is there a creative way I can do this? Oh, and one of my favorites, which I didn't even know about until 2 years ago, I interviewed someone, and you know what? He wrote a book about his son who had a learning challenge. And where did he publish and sell it? He sold it through Etsy. Let that sink in for a minute. Etsy is a place where creatives go. And you know what? There are a ton of books available for sale through Etsy. So you want to have multiple places that people can find your book.
All right. So, Judy, I have some other ground I want to cover with you. But before we do, let's take a quick break for a word from our sponsor.
Are you a business owner or entrepreneur who's had great success in the business world, and now you want to launch a speaking career to share your message with the world? If that's you, then listen up. 25-year speaking industry veteran Brett Ridgway has released his latest special report, 3 key things entrepreneurs must master to build a profitable speaking business. To pick up your copy, go to brettridgway.com/freebie.
And we are back with the Spotlight on Speaking show. My guest this week is Judy Baker. We're talking about book marketing and how speakers who have books that aren't getting as much mileage as they would like them to get, how they can rejuvenate that book, and other things related to books. So, Judy, I want to ask you a question. So what if an author has written a book, and probably a how-to book, a nonfiction book, and they didn't know about bounce back offers and all that when they published the book, and they've got 1,000 copies sitting somewhere in their garage or in their basement or whatever. So what can they do with that book, and how can they make it more of a marketing tool for them if they've already published but forgot to put those things in?
Well, there's always the possibility. So if you've got physical books in a warehouse in your office, what about adding a postcard or a bookmark that has those bounce back pieces of information? You could create a bookmark or postcard that has a QR code that will take them to your website, shows all your goodies, all your offers. If you've self-published, you can easily republish and add that information. And remember at the beginning, I said you can put that information in the front or in the back or both. And I've seen it both ways. So when you do the look inside, when you're looking for a book and you go to the look inside, whether you're on Amazon or another platform, it'll show you a number of pages. So what if the first thing that comes up after the title page says, oh, if you'd like to get these goodies, it could be, it can be the free chapter. It could be that you're offering a video. It could be, all kinds of different things, but you put that front and center. And even if they don't buy the book right then, this is giving you, it's like having an ad inside your book. So I would recommend that. Also, this is a strategy that really works. So if you've got, say it's that 500, 1,000 books sitting there, are you doing speaking engagements? You're not going to push and say, buy my book. You're going to do an incredible job at being a presenter, and you have back of the room sales. So if people love you, they're going to swamp you. They want to take a piece of you home with them. So you can sell your book in an event. Now, if you're doing something like you're going to a conference or you're going to a trade show, you want to have those books with you. You could give them to people, but again, you want to make sure you've got something inside the book that's going to capture their email. In fact, you could do this very easily. You're at an event, you can say, oh, I want, if you give me your phone or give me your email and your name, I'll give you a copy of my book. Now, it's far better to give your books away and get people reading them and creating some buzz than it is to have them sitting on a pallet doing nothing for you. So the strategy that I advocate is allocate about 500 books that you're going to give away, whether it's digital or physical. And every time you gift somebody with your book, you can just gently say, oh, if you would please give me an honest review. You're not saying a good review, you're saying an honest review. And remember how I said you could have a QR code on that card that you're inserting or have in the book? You can tell them exactly where you would like that review posted. If you're a business author, well, Amazon's one place. What if you ask people to do it on LinkedIn? Because that's where your customers are. So you can do a lot of things with that book. You could include it as a giveaway. You're doing a workshop, a masterclass online. And as part of registration, you say, I will send you a copy of my book. You pay for the postage, I'll send you a copy of my book. So those are some things I would do.
Now, I will say that if you're thinking about selling your book in the back room at an event, number one, you need to make sure you have the permission of the event promoter who brought you in to do that.
Yep.
And you also need to keep in mind, I come from the world of multi-speaker events, and the expected thing that you're going to be offered from the stage will not be a $15 book. They're going to expect you to sell $1,000 or a $2,000 product that they're going to revenue share with you. So just be aware of the lay of the land at any speaking event before you go in and decide whether you're selling your book or something else, because preferably they want you to sell a high ticket item versus a low ticket item. So let's talk about this book again some more, Judy, because you have this asset here. And one of the things that you probably heard the word repurposing, but what can you do with that asset to help drive people into your world? Because your book, I assume, is full of fantastic content.
Mm-hmm.
So how many blog posts could you do out of the content of your book? And you use those blog posts to drive them to buy your book or whatever. I mean, take what you already have. Don't start with a blank piece of paper every time. Take what you have, repurpose it, and then put it out there via LinkedIn, via Facebook, via Instagram, Twitter, whatever it may be, and use those pithy, valuable pieces of content that you pull from your book, little snippets, to drive traffic back to your book or to your website or wherever you want them to go.
Well, you brought up a good point. What if you went through your entire book and you gathered quotes that you have within there, something simple and easy, and then, I think today there are very few people in the universe who don't know about using Canva. So you take a quote, you go to Canva, you either make a template or you pick a template, you put your quote over that image, and then if you have a pro account, zippity doo-dah, you can resize that little gem into the right size for Instagram, the right size for Facebook, the right size for LinkedIn. And once you do that, you're not going to just put those little things, you're not going to put those out one time. You're going to put them out multiple times. So you're going to create a calendar, and you can have a cycle. You could include those quotes and the graphics in your newsletter. You could include them in an email one at a time. I'm not saying, smush them all together, but you can drip out that information over time. And as you said, what if you did a blog post? But what if you did that blog post and you repurpose that blog post with a few twists and you put it up on LinkedIn? What if you wrote an article and submitted it to a publication other than your website, other than a social site that is ideal for your target audience? So say if your book is about saving money or correcting a financial faux pas, what if you reached out to accountants or enrolled agents or wealth advisors and say, I've got this article, I want to gift it to you, would you share it with your people? And oh, by the way, if you're interested, I'm also available to do a webinar with you. So you look for partnerships, but you also look for other outlets to share your information. This is a really good example. My friend Rebecca Rosenberg she writes historical fiction. And you know what she did? She wrote an article that it's always featuring women in the wine industry. So she wrote an article about women, about some of the hurdles that they had to overcome. She submitted it to Ms. Magazine. She has never had to solicit another speaking opportunity. She got flooded. People recognized her. So she went to a reputable publication. She got international coverage in a second. And that propelled people wanting to know more about her books. The same strategy works with nonfiction.
I think the important lesson here, Judy, is that, the value of the asset is not the book, it's that content in the book and how you can use that content in other ways. I mean, you may not even, if you already have a book, great, but you may not even want to do a book. You may be able to take that exact same content, package it in a different way, and sell it for a much higher ticket price. So the value is in the content, not the physical book, not those pieces of paper and the cover and all that. It's the content where the real value lies.
Exactly.
So my colleague here, Judy Baker, is known as the book marketing mentor. So Judy, why don't you take a couple minutes and tell people a little bit more about what it is that you do and how they can get involved in your world and get some help relaunching that book that isn't going where they want it to go thus far.
Well, as I mentioned at the beginning, I can do an assessment with you. I can do an audit where we look at what's going on. Do you have a recognizable brand? And is it speaking to your audience? So we can set that up. I'll work with you. We'll go through and see what you've got and what needs to be fixed. That's one thing. I call them a la carte strategy sessions. Sometimes you get stuck and you need to talk something through. You've got a problem and you're just not figuring it out. I can work with you on an a la carte basis. And you can also work with me over a longer term so that, 3 months or 6 months, and I'll guide you. I'll be your sounding board. And I also am kind of an energizer bunny when it comes to ideas. And I probably come up with things that most people don't connect the dots about. So if you got a problem with your book, if you've already launched and it's languishing, I can help see what we can do to fix it. And if you haven't launched yet, I'll help you identify the things you can do inside the book that can help engage your audience and some of the different options that fit your personality and your style so that you can consistently get the word out, use that asset, and grow your income.
All right. So if you have a languishing book, as Judy says, then I encourage you to reach out to Judy via her site, bookmarketingmentor.com, and get in touch with Judy and see how she can help you get that book going in the right direction again. And as always, I thank everybody for joining us today. Thank you, Judy. Thank you to all my listeners out there for joining us on this episode of the Spotlight on Speaking Show. As always, I wish you the greatest of success in all that you do. And may this year be your greatest year yet. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
This has been the Spotlight on Speaking Show with Brett Ridgway. Be sure to join us every week as we interview speaking industry pros and have them share their best tips for building a profitable speaking business. Until next week, thank you for tuning in, and remember to visit our website at spotlightonspeaking.com so you can enjoy even more great episodes like this one. While you're here, be sure to subscribe via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Spotlight on Speaking Show. Until then, our sincere best wishes to you for the greatest of success as you work to build your own profitable speaking business.